somewhere, right now, there is a piece of copper touching your life, wiring inside your walls, a coin in your pocket, the pipe carrying water to your sink. You never think about it. It's just there, quiet and reliable. But copper wasn't always ordinary. Copper was once magic. Your ancestors did not find copper the way you'd expect. There was no scientist, no plan, no moment of genius. Just fire, rock, and an accident that would change the entire trajectory of human civilization. Go back roughly 10,000 years. Long before writing, long before cities. Humans everywhere are living the same way they had for hundreds of thousands of years. Stone tools, stone weapons, stone everything. Hard, brittle, and limited by whatever shape a rock happened to break into. Then something strange starts, appearing in a few scattered places. Small green and blue stones, oddly smooth, oddly heavy. Early humans picked them up not because they were useful, but because they were beautiful. This is the part almost nobody expects. Copper's discovery didn't start with tools. It started with jewelry. The archaeologist Ünsal Yalçın, who has spent years studying early metallurgy sites in Anatolia, has documented some of the earliest known copper objects. Beads, pins, small ornamental pieces. Not weapons, not axes. Decoration. Long before anyone understood what copper could do, they simply liked how it looked. But beauty alone doesn't explain what happened next. Something else had to occur. Something accidental. Picture a campfire. Not a special one. Just an ordinary fire built for warmth or cooking, ringed with stones the way fires had been ringed for 100,000 years. Except this time, one of those stones wasn't ordinary stone. It was malachite, a copper-bearing mineral that happens to look almost decorative, green and swirled. Fires built for cooking can reach temperatures over 700 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to do something no one intended. It's hot enough to begin pulling metallic copper out of the rock itself. Imagine being there. You wake up, the fire has died down, and sitting in the ashes is something that was not there before. A small bead of shining reddish metal, sitting where a dull green rock used to be. What would you think? Would you assume the fire had somehow given birth to something new? Researchers studying the origins of metallurgy, including work associated with archaeologist Ernst Pernicka, have proposed that early copper smelting may have emerged exactly this way. Not through invention, through repetition. Someone noticed the strange result once, then it happened again, and slowly. Without anyone fully understanding the chemistry, a pattern formed. This is one of the strangest parts of the entire story. Nobody who discovered copper smelting understood oxidation. Nobody understood chemical reduction. There was no theory. There was only observation, repeated again and again, until pattern became method. Certain rocks, in certain fires, produced shining metal. At some point, someone made the leap that changed everything. If fire could pull metal from rock once, maybe it could be made to happen on purpose. This is where accident becomes intention. Early humans began deliberately placing copper-bearing stones into fires, not to see what would happen. They already knew what would happen. They were now doing it to make it happen. Archaeological sites in regions like the Balkans and the Near East show copper smelting activity dating back roughly 7,000 years. Small, clay-lined pits, traces of charcoal, tiny beads of copper left behind, evidence of intentional, repeated effort. But here's a question worth sitting with. Why did this matter so much? Stone tools had worked for hundreds of thousands of years. Why would anyone bother with something as difficult as metalworking? Because copper could do something stone could never do. Stone breaks, copper bends. A stone axe head, once cracked, was gone, useless. But a copper tool that dulled could be reheated, reshaped, reused. For the first time in human history, a tool didn't have to be discarded when it failed. It could be reborn. This single property, malleability, quietly rewired how humans thought about material itself. Objects were no longer fixed. They were adaptable. And that idea, more than the metal itself, planted a seed that would eventually grow into bronze, then iron, then steel, then eventually the wiring inside the device you might be watching this on right now. There's a common myth worth clearing up. Many people assume ancient humans stumbled straight into using copper for weapons and tools right away. They didn't. For a long stretch of early copper history, the metal remained largely ceremonial, ornamental, a symbol of status rather than utility. Copper was rare. It required fire, skill, and access to specific mineral deposits that most communities simply didn't have. Owning a copper object wasn't like owning a tool. It was closer to owning a piece of jewelry made from something the rest of the world couldn't easily obtain. This turned copper into something unexpected. Not just a material, a marker of identity. Graves from this era occasionally contained copper. Ornaments buried alongside individuals, suggesting the metal carried meaning beyond its physical properties. Some archaeologists studying burial patterns in early copper-using societies have noted that these objects appear more frequently in graves, associated with higher social status, hinting that copper may have functioned as an early symbol of wealth or importance long before it became a tool of daily labor. Only gradually, over centuries, did copper shift from ornament to instrument. Awls, fish hooks, small blades, eventually axes strong enough to fell trees. What began as decoration slowly became infrastructure, and once that shift happened, there was no going back. Communities that mastered copperworking gained a quiet but massive advantage. Better tools meant more efficient farming. More efficient farming meant surplus food. Surplus food meant population growth, specialization, and eventually, the earliest seeds of complex society. All of it, in some very real sense, traces back to a rock accidentally sitting too close to a fire. Here's the twist that ties everything together. The people who first discovered copper had no idea they were standing at the edge of an entirely new era of human history. They weren't trying to invent metallurgy. They were trying to cook dinner, decorate their bodies, or simply understand a strange rock that behaved differently in the flames. Progress, at least here, wasn't the result of a genius plan. It was the result of paying attention to something odd and refusing to ignore it. That instinct, notice something strange, repeat it, refine it, is still inside you. Every time you tinker with something just to see what happens, every time curiosity leads you somewhere, useful by accident, you're running the same basic process your ancestors used to unlock the Bronze Age. So, the next time you flip a light switch, or plug in a charger, or hold a coin in your hand, remember what's actually happening. You're touching the end result of a discovery that began not with intention, but with a strange green rock and ordinary fire. And someone curious enough to wonder why the ashes looked different than they should have. Because that piece of copper touching your life right now didn't start as a tool. It started as a mystery someone refused to walk away from.